private meet and greet later on, there's a much more X-rated version of another part of that story. It just gets completely out of control. I was sitting in bed this morning reading this, completely blushing. I was like, this can't be happening. All right, thank you so much for indulging me. I'd love to answer some questions and maybe play some music or something for you guys. What do you think? Okay. Hi, Allie.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about Their Watching and where they can find it online.
Oh yeah. So I did this movie in Romania, this little horror comedy movie with Micah Wright and Jay Lunder, who are these amazing cartoonists. You know them from Phineas and Ferb. You know them from SpongeBob SquarePants. And this was their first live-action sort of horror comedy movie, and it was a really cool treat to work on it. We shot it, like I said, in Bucharest and in Sibiu out in Romania, and I think you can find it on iTunes now, actually. And where else? Do you know? Amazing. All those places. It's cool. We were in theaters for a little while. It was cute, like this little indie horror movie, so people came out. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Hi. I loved your character. I just thought you were really intense, and I was wondering, how did you get into acting in the first place?
Oh man, I was in high school and we had an arts program, but I didn't do theater in high school. I was in the orchestra because we had to do like one arts mandatory class, and I knew how to play violin, so I thought that'd be easier. So I did that, and then I got to university, and I don't know how to describe it, but it kind of felt like an itch that just wasn't being satisfied. I was seeing a lot of plays. I was watching a lot of movies. I spent all my money like just renting videos. And around halfway through my first year of university, I was kind of in a funk. I was in a program that I was in computer science and weird stuff like that, and it just wasn't connecting for me. Like there was something missing dramatically for me. And I thought, well, we've got this theater at the university where I went to in Toronto, Canada. That was kind of like a community theater. It wasn't like, you didn't have to be in the theater program. You didn't have to do like weird theater experiments with like German theater and stuff. It wasn't like that. It was just like, you'd come, you'd do a play, and you could be a student, you could be a teacher, you could be just somebody who lives in the neighborhood, and it was kind of open to anybody like that. And I thought, okay, well that's kind of cool. And I met so many people who were really good at telling stories, really good at acting, who weren't coming at it from like this professional standpoint. They were in the maths department, they were in English literature, they were in French, they were in economics or whatever, but they brought this kind of life experience to these plays that we were doing. I thought, man, this is really cool. This is something that I really want to be a part of. So slowly over time, like I finished my degree, but I also did more and more plays, and then I started acting in some movies and stuff in Toronto, and then television, and then eventually moved down to LA, but it just kind of like smoothly kind of transitioned for me. I didn't question it too much. I just kind of went, okay, yeah, what's next? Let's try this thing, let's try that thing. And I kind of feel like that now too. Every time I get a job, I kind of feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I have no idea why they like let me work on this thing. And every time I do a project, I kind of think to myself, this might be the last thing I ever do, so I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm going to do the best work that I can do, and if this is the last project I ever work on, I'm okay with that. I'm cool with that. Yeah, thank you. Oh, other stuff. Hi.
Hi. I saw you playing your violin last night, and it was beautiful.
Thank you.
And I was wondering what inspired you to start playing.
What inspired me, or what forced me to start playing? My mom. I was 8 years old. I didn't have a choice. One day I came home and there was like a violin sitting there, and they're like, "You must learn to play violin. Why not piano?" Well, my sister played piano, and I think the trouble with the piano was it was hard to lug around everywhere, you know what I mean? But a violin, like if you're going somewhere, you can take it with you. If you're living in another city somewhere, you can drag it along with you. So it's a very portable instrument. I think literally it was because it was portable. Because nobody else in my family really plays any instruments. It's not like grandparents played the violin or my dad taught me how to play music or anything. It was just like, And then it was, you must practice. So it's one of those things. And I thank them for it now. At the time, it was just misery. I remember it sounded like killing chickens and cats for the first 4 years. Who here plays an instrument? Used to. That's great. So like a lot of you, I'd say probably more than half That's really, really cool. It's a great skill to have. For me, I still play the violin, even though, professionally I'm not a violinist or anything, and so there's less pressure on me to be practicing all the time. But I still play it kind of regularly because, for me, it's kind of like meditating. When other people talk to me about meditation, or when I watch YouTube videos about transcendental meditation and they talk about it, the way they describe the feelings that they get of this kind of being separated from space and not really feeling like you're in this moment, like you're just drifting in outer space. I'm like, I know that feeling because I get that feeling when I'm practicing a piece over and over and over again, and I just kind of let go and you're just following it. I can still, pick up pieces and play them that I haven't played in 15 years as if my fingers have a mind of their own. It's a very strange feeling. But to me, I think that's the closest to meditating I'll ever get because I'm too impatient to just sit there and think about nothing. Like there's a bunch of other things that I need to kind of do all the time. But it's kind of wicked that way. Do you play an instrument? What do you play?
The flute and a little guitar. I'm just learning guitar.
Oh, that's great. Guitar is a beautiful instrument. Flute is too. It's very ethereal. That's great. Thank you for the question. Okay, who's next? Hi.
Hi, again. We run the elevator.
That's right.
And we saw your ukulele.
Oh, yeah.
So is there any other instruments that you play besides those two?
I just started playing the ukulele. I found it on Craigslist like a month ago. But I love it so much because it's like the violin, it's a 4-string instrument. So unlike the guitar, like those guys who play guitar, like last night, it's just amazing because they've got all these crazy chords and there's 6 strings and you've only got 4 fingers. How do they do it? But the ukulele is like a 4-string instrument, and it's in this kind of like lower register, and it's kind of fun. And I've never heard anybody play the ukulele poorly. Like, I don't think you can mess that up. It's kind of like making an omelet. You can't really mess that up. So I could play you guys a song on the ukulele, but that means that you guys are going to be standing there for like 5 minutes. Is that okay? Okay. All right, Leopard Dress, here we go. I'm going to play you a song on the ukulele. Bear with me. It's my first time in my life singing in front of people. And I am so shit scared, you have no idea. Okay. Probably need another microphone for the ukulele. Let's see. Let me see if I can
Yeah,
turn
we'll
this.
get,
Oh wait, look, there's no cables. That's amazing.
we can get a boom stand set up for you, Dave.
Yeah, I got it. This is live.
Now, if you're gonna play the ukulele, you have to wear a grass skirt. And the coconut shells.
Does anyone have a tutu? Bonnie, where are you? Where's your tutu? I need some salami slices. Come on. My dog has fleas. If I do this. You guys are so patient, I love it. Oh my god. Stay. Microphone. They don't make them like they used to. Can you hear this? And that is my song for you. You know the words singing. Why men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you. Shall I stay? Would it be a sin? I can't help falling in love flow surely to the sea. Darling, so it goes. Some things were meant to be. Take my hand, take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love with you. Oh, I can't help falling in love with you. Thank you. Thanks for making that easy for me. Hey.
Hi, so my question is related to the fact that you play a character who's a professor at Whitmore, but so does the actor playing Alaric. So both characters are professors at Whitmore, so who do you think would have the better Rate My Professors rating, you or Alaric?
How many people has Alaric murdered and manipulated? And how many vampires has he tried to bring back from the dead? I don't know. I think probably Alaric. Probably Alaric. Yeah. Yeah. Although, you know, I haven't read any of his fan fiction online. I should probably get into that. Yeah. Is it really sexy? Have you read any of his fan fiction?
He lurid in terms of like student-teacher stuff that's
Nice.
a little unsavory.
Awesome. Also, we don't approve of that kind of business. But it has to be said. Awesome. Thank you.
Hi.
Yeah. Oh, hey.
So my question is, have you ever had like a fanboy moment? Because I know you've played for System, which is really cool. So have you had a fanboy moment?
Yeah, that's right. I actually haven't played with System per se, but I've played with Serge Tankian, who's the lead singer of System. So I've worked with him on, I think, 3 or 4 of his last solo albums, and his jazz album, Jazz is Christ. He's great. I adore him. I think he's one of the coolest people I know, and also one of the most down-to-earth and humble people I know. It's weird. I get fanboy moments over some of the most randomest people you would ever meet. I remember I was in university. I was walking down the street, and I saw this one scientist who won the Nobel Prize for like chemistry in 1956, and I lost my shit, and it was really embarrassing because I followed him into a hardware store, and his wife looked at me, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. So I've had my moments, but I never know when it's going to happen. Yeah, Serge is great though. He's so cool that you never really feel like you're really out of place. Yeah, but thank you then. What's your name? Sosie?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Awesome. Hi. Hey, Allie.
Can you talk to us about Prodigals that you filmed with Sarah Canning?
Oh yeah, you guys know Sarah Canning, right? Aunt Janet from Vampire Diaries? So she and I worked on a movie this past January and February called Prodigals, and it's about a young man who leaves home and ditches his girlfriend, Sarah Canning, and goes to law school in the big city. And then, you know, everybody thinks that he's practicing law and he's this big successful lawyer, but actually he's dropped out and he's just miserable. And, you know, 4 or 5 years later, one of his best friends back home is having some legal troubles, so he comes to help bail her young brother out of a murder charge. And, you know, what does he do? He's got to sort of confront these people that he left behind. He lies about the fact that he's a lawyer, so he kind of like helps out with his case even when he shouldn't. But in the meantime, he's sort of trying to mend bridges, mend fences with the people that he left behind in his life, and he falls back in love with this woman again who really does not want to have anything to do with him at this point. It's a great story. One of those indie movies that I'm like really honestly proud to have been a part of. I'm not entirely sure when it's coming out, but I don't know if it's going to be called Prodigals when it does come out, but if you go on IMDb, you'll be able to track the name and see if it changes over time and if it becomes something else. Yeah, but thank you so much for asking that. Thank you. Hey.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. Elizabeth.
Yes.
Yes, I met you last night.
what are your two biggest goals that you want to accomplish in your life?
Jesus. That's a great question. So many people have like these 5-year goals, like the 5-year plans, and they kind of think it out. And I keep hearing that if you do that, if you're systematic about it, you're much more likely to accomplish them. Or if you like say things out loud, then there's 75%. Stephen Amell taught me that actually. He's like, if you say something out loud, it's 75% more likely to come true. I want to eat a giant cake without getting any calories. I don't know. Goals-wise, like I would really love to keep working as an actor up until that moment, no longer, where it doesn't feel creative anymore, and then find something else to do and just kind of like just throw myself into it and never look back. But in the meantime, just like hope to do things that I'm proud of and things that I can sort of like be happy that I did, as opposed to feel uncomfortable having worked on, which is always kind of like a thin line to walk sometimes when you're an actor and you're, you know, struggling to find parts and to find, you know, roles that kind of connect with you as a person and what you believe in the world. You see a lot of people who sometimes sell themselves short that way, and they'll work on things that they really want to. Not just actors, that's like in life, you know, that's like a thing that we all kind of deal with, and it's like a devil that we've all got to wrestle. That's definitely one thing. That's one of my goals. I'll have to think about the other one and get back to you. All right. Thank you so much. Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hey.
As your character, Professor Shane, if your character could be with one person on the show, who would you want to be with? Like in a relationship?
Like a loving relationship, or like, hey, let's go on road trips and...
I don't know, like a loving relationship.
I think it would still be Ian. I mean, Damon. I know the difference between actors and the characters they play. Come on, give me a break. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. I always imagined Shane as a very sort of tragic hero. You know, he's got this love of his life that he can no longer be with. Camille, she's gone, she's dead, and he can sort of, yeah, and then he can sort of like go through the motions of sort of loving these other people, but there's this hole inside of him that he can't seem to fill. So I never really imagined him with anybody else. Who do you see him with? Who would be like a good match for him and his brand of like kookiness?
I would say probably Bonnie.
Yeah? Even after everything they've been to?
Yeah, the Mad Libs really got to me.
Oh, really? You should see the other stuff I got cooking. It's ridiculous. If we had time, I'd do it for you guys, but I'm guessing that we're running short. No? Okay, never mind. Thank you so much for your question. Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
First of all, I wanted to say a great thing. I didn't know you could sing. And God bless your mom for teaching you how to play help Nikki play the violin. But do you wish to do anything further or professionally with your violin skills?
I don't see myself putting out an album, but I do see myself working with other friends who are professional musicians, and luckily I've been able to do that over the past few years, and you know, just record with them and just improvise with them and jam with them and help them realize their vision. I've always thought of myself as a much more functional, like collaborative artist with the violin. I kind of like to play with other people who are playing as opposed to just staying there by myself and playing. It's a very lonely instrument that way. Although guys like Andrew Bird and stuff are doing very cool things with repeat pedals and like all these really cool things where they create an entire soundscape and they just have one violin with them. But what is that? Hi, jazz hands? What does that mean? 5 minutes? 5 seconds? 5 hours? We got 5 hours, people. Get comfy, we're just warming up. Yeah, just stuff like that though, you know, if there are any musicians out there who are interested, reach out to me. I'm on Twitter occasionally, when I remember my password, and Instagram sometimes. David Alpay on Instagram, at Dave Alpay on Twitter, because apparently there's some other guy named David Alpay in the Philippines. Who knew? Yeah, totally. Thank you, thanks for the question. Hey.
Hi, what 3 countries would you like to travel to, and by any chance would Armenia be one of them?
I have been there. Have you been there?
Yes, I have.
Good for you. Where'd you go?
In Armenia?
Yes.
I went with my school for like a field trip. We went to like all the churches, like Alpay, and we visited a lot of villages. We went to Waraba,
So I went there a few years ago, and it was, yeah, definitely a life-changing trip. I mean, it sounds like you spent some time there, and that's kind of the way to do it. It's a tiny country, but it's a mighty country. There's so much to see. It's very mountainous, so all the different regions are very separate from each other and very different from each other. But in terms of like ecotourism, it's a beautiful country. In terms of like some of the architecture there and the churches, it's just unbelievable. It's so beautiful, and the people are very friendly, and the food is amazing. Everything's organic because it has to be. I don't think they use pesticides there. It's kind of like New Zealand that way. But I loved it. I'm so happy you got a chance to see it with your friends in your school and everything. That's really cool. Yeah, so I definitely go there. New Zealand is another place I went to recently, a couple of years ago. It's beautiful. It's a great country. Have you been there? Yeah. You're from there? You're a Kiwi? Amazing. How many people from New Zealand in the room? Okay, just one. Tiny but mighty, yet again. Beautiful country. Very similar in a way. And I love the ocean, so anywhere that has a lot of ocean around it. I was in Chile a couple of years ago too. I spent like a month and a half just like up and down the coast of that country. Beautiful place, really sweet people. So yeah. Oh, I've never been to Australia. It is near New Zealand. Yeah. It's funny, it's like I'm originally from Canada, and I kind of think the relationship between New Zealand and Australia must be a little bit like the relationship between Canada and the United States. It's like neighbors, culturally very similar, but like minor differences that kind of like are really loud to you if you're from there. So that's really cool. Yeah, no, I've never been to Australia. I've always wanted to go. Soon. Yes. How big is your suitcase? What's that? Oh, she's got 2 suitcases. Score! Thank you so much for that question. Thank you. Yes. No? No questions? No? 0 questions. Okay, how about you? Oh, 1 question.
Hi.
Hi.
So you said you've been like not everywhere in the world, but different places?
Not everywhere, but there's a few places I haven't been to.
Languages. Do you speak Spanish?
Oh, man. Pobrecito. Is that the right word? Un poquito? I don't know. What does pobrecito mean? Oh, fuck me. That's how much Spanish I know. Un poquito. Speak better French. You speak French? Yes. Who speaks French? Oh, wow. That's pretty uncommon. From LA or from other places? Oh my God, all I see is like a blinding light in my eye. I'm just assuming people are raising their hands and they're cheering for me. What's that? Oh, je voudrais manger un gâteau délicieux avec vous. Et ensuite, aller partager une saucisse couverte de moutarde. Hein? Comme ça? Quoi d'autre? Il y a d'autres choses? Non? Tu m'aimes? Je t'aime aussi. Tu me manques. Ça fait longtemps qu'on n'a pas parlé. Alors, quoi d'autre? Y a-t-il des personnes qui parlent français ici? Oui? Non? C'est fini? Have I lost you? I've lost you, I'm so sorry. I do that, I slip in other voices occasionally. It's so funny, my parents put me in a German Saturday school when I was really little, because they came from Germany to Canada, and I hate it, I was so scared. I didn't understand a thing that was going on. But there are audio tape recordings of me speaking to Santa Claus in German when I was like 4 years old, and it's really creepy. Because it's like a totally different person speaking German. So occasionally I'll still have dreams where people around me are speaking German, and it legitimately sounds like German, not like gobbledygook German, like gibberish, like actual German, but I have no idea what they're saying. But it's amazing what the brain holds on to and what it kind of gets rid of. Yes, hilarious. Okay, all right. No other questions, it seems like, and I think my time might be up. I don't know. Someone give me an indication of what's going on. I'm just gonna stand here and sing for you. I don't know where my fiddle is. I think it's in the back somewhere. I think somebody hit it. And really, I only know 2 other songs on the ukulele, so it's not really. Other questions? Just yell something out. I know some of you are just too lazy to get up to the microphone, so ask me some questions. Oh man, it was awesome. Did you guys watch that?
Yes.
Quantico was fucking cool. We shot that up in Montreal. I was there for a few months, worked on a few episodes, and it was very secretive because they were trying to create this culture of like secrecy. Oh, shit. Chase is back, ladies and gentlemen. And my doppelganger.
Apparently. You guys are brothers. Yeah, it's happened a few times. Someone brings a picture up to the autograph table. I'm like, that's not me. I can sign it for you, but that's not me.
I recently had a biceps transplant where I gave all my arm muscles to.
Oh, come on! Oh, guys, give it up for David Up. Thank you so much. Give it all up. Give it all.
I'll see you guys next time. Have a good day. Bye.